Hello my lovelies, welcome back to all my sobbies, and if you're new here, very pleased to have you along. My wish for today is that I hope that you get some benefit maybe from my experience of the title of this video, which is bowel resection. You can have bowel resections done for a number of different conditions and reasons, but mine was due to bowel cancer. So what I'd just like to cover in this is just a few little bits and pieces, how I'd wish I'd been a bit more prepared for going in. Mine was quite a rush situation, but just bits and pieces for your going in bag, maybe some hints and tips that could just make things a little bit easier when you're going through this situation. So first of all, I was brought in, again, this is not going to apply to everybody. I was brought in about a week beforehand and I had a tattoo inside. They went up with the camera, bits and pieces like that, and they gave me a tattoo inside my bowel. I thought this was actually, quite cool. I like my ink. And I'd never heard of anybody having it done before, so it was just basically a couple of little bits of marking, so when they went in they knew where they were kind of going for and which bits they were taking out. So after that, I was booked in for pre-surgery now, or not pre-surgery, sorry, pre-op, and that's basically I had to go in the day before, which was a long haul because like my hospital where I had my operation is 2.5 hours drive away. So I had to be in the previous day and I had to have bloods and just a few just general bits and pieces, and then if I had any questions or anything then I could put it to the team or a couple of the team that were there today. I couldn't really think of anything. I was still in some sort of mode where I was just, well, let's get this over and done with, and yeah, get this alien out of me, which is what I called my tumour. Next morning we had to leave the house. I think it was around 4 o'clock to get there to be booked in and the whole lot to go in for my surgery. So I was extremely tired, as you can imagine. I was very anxious and worried and a bit scared, knowing that I was going in for this major operation basically in a few hours time from the time I got home. That night we tried everything for relaxation and things, and if you can find something that works, find it. My tip for you on that one is lavender spray. Anything lavender eye mask. Yes, and this applies to you guys as well. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Nobody has to know you're in your bed, So I'd gone in, and like that again, I was fitted up with lines, and I was very, very anxious for mine. So I was given a tablet, I think it was like a diazepam or something along them lines, a Valium type tablet to try and calm me down, because I was having a lot of tears and the nerves just got the better of me at that stage. I was like, no, I nearly had to be dragged down the corridor by my partner to get me into the place, even though I knew it was for the best. I'd never had any major operations before, so I wasn't quite sure what to expect. Now, I was made aware before surgery that the bowel resection might go a couple of different ways. It was, originally planned that I was having keyhole surgery, which was just a couple of tiny incisions to go in and take things out nice and delicately, and healing time would have been a lot quicker for that one. But unfortunately, when they got in there, things were just a little bit more complicated. But I was also told that I might have to have like a bag on the outside, a stoma bag, I think the name of it is, just to, just to see, depending on how they got in or on when they were in there. Wasn't really, I didn't know what to expect. It'd all been said to me, but it went in one ear and kind of out the other. So yeah, I'd say goodbye. I was on the trolley. I'd say goodbye to my partner at the door, at the theatre doors, as far as he could come. Again, extremely upset, extremely nervous, tears, all that kind of thing. But that was just me. You know, you might go in and hopefully you'll go in with the view of this is going to be over and done with soon. You know, I can start on to the next part of treatment or whatever the story may be with your case. So next thing I know is I'm in with the people that put you to sleep. There's a name on them. It's just gone clean out of my head. So I was in with them, and she told me that she was doing something, and that was the last thing I remember. I didn't know I was going to sleep there, and then she said she was doing something else. But nevertheless, I'm very thankful for the way she done it. Obviously, I'm not aware of anything that happened when I was in surgery, but I know that my partner and my mum were waiting for me to come round, and I was in for a lot longer, a couple of hours longer than planned. So you can imagine the panic that was going on in the corridor as well. But when I'd come round from surgery, I was in a lot of pain, and I didn't expect to be in a lot of pain. I didn't know why I was in a lot of pain. It was kind of half said to me by one of the nurses that was in looking after me, because I had to be in ICU, standard procedure for 24 hours or so afterwards. So I was in there, and all I wanted to know was where my partner was, basically. I'm happy to be alive. I don't understand why I'm in so much pain, but nevertheless I wasn't fully aware of what exactly I had done at that stage. So just one of the nurses had just said, like, the surgery had gone to plan. I didn't have a bag on the outside. They were able to attach the bowel, reattach the bowel, or do something with it. But I'd had a bigger incision than they'd planned, and that's when I woke up with like a catheter thing in as well, which was strange. A catheter is basically a funnel that goes up to stop the need for you going for a wee, basically, and catches everything in a wee bag. It's actually quite handy. I wouldn't mind one some days, just in general. So that was that. I got to see everybody, and that was fine. I was put on a morphine type drip system thingy, and if I needed it, they kind of gave it to me so cool when I needed it. But they were monitoring me on there was machines beeping all the time, there was wires coming out and tubes coming out of everywhere, and it did scare me. But I just want to say, this is normal. This is very, very normal. So don't be afraid of any of that. You're in the best place you can be. I was moved to a ward the next day. I think the next day, around 24 hours or so afterwards. And now, my complaint with the ward was the hospital with the top specialist here. I was in a very old ward. My bed wasn't electric or anything. It was like something you'd see out of Heartbeat, if you're aware, if you know what that program is, or any of the old hospital kind of dramas. Carry On film. The matron, I had one of them as well, bless her. But it was very hard for me to move, because what I kind of worked out myself at this stage, I'd had a large incision on a female. This would be classed as like the best way I could describe it is maybe like a C-section type scar, very close to the pelvis line, about 5-6 inches long. But I also had they'd gone in through the belly button, and I had other holes and bits and pieces where they tried to go in and do everything keyhole. So yes, I was uncomfortable, but once they got the pump fitted that I could press a wee button and things like that, things improved pain-wise. You're never going to be comfortable in a hospital anyway, and it's to be expected that you're going to be sore, uncomfortable, grotty, for the first, you know, couple of days, especially afterwards. But I didn't know any of this. As I said, they'd never had a major operation or anything before. So, getting on to the next bit. After you've had a bowel resection, you are put on the worst diet you can possibly imagine. It's bland, soft, horrible. I was having things like jelly and ice cream, and that sounds great, right? No. Hospital jelly and ice cream is not great. It's basically sugar in a bowl. Oh Christ, I was so hungry. But I wasn't allowed to eat anything proper for days. And then when I was given something kind of half proper, it was like, no, bland. But that's your diet afterwards, unfortunately. You know, it's not the worst in the world. You're kind of getting fed. But I was still starving. So I was getting quite grumpy with everybody at this stage because I was sore, I was hungry. You know, I suffer with that word, I think they call it hangry, quite often. But you know, it was a couple of days later, the surgical team actually came round to see me and explained why I'd had to have such a bigger incision. That basically when they'd gone in, and it just so happened she came round at the time I was having a cup of tea. And I don't know, you know, if you've been in hospital or somewhere like that, they give you this tiny little mug thing. Brutal. That's not a cup of tea. I don't know what that is. That's a taster. And the way she described it to me was, when they went in, things were a little bit more complicated. The tumour was a bit larger than they were kind of expecting, and surrounding tissues and things like that had to be removed. So she described it to me as being in and around the same size as the cup that I had. So you'll have a rough idea maybe of what that size is. She says maybe a tiny bit larger. And she explained to me that I was very lucky that it was caught when it was, because it had started to come out of the bowel wall, which meant it was about to travel on to, well, God knows where at this stage. Then she'd also said to me as well that I'd had my appendix removed because it just looked a bit abnormal. Okay, and so many nodes, thingies, basically little glands around the surrounding areas. So that's okay. Fine. I just wanted to know when I could go home. Obviously, I was in no fit state to go home at that stage. But that was that. So that was the operation. That was what was explained. Lots of morphine, lots of opiate type anti-inflammatories. Now at the time, my bowels and stuff weren't moving the way they would have liked them to at the time. And my complaint was, well, hold on now a minute, you're basically giving me sugar in a pot. You know, I need something a little bit more substantial if I'm going to go to the toilet. Normally at the best of times, you know. But they kept giving me, like, I think it was lactulose or something, syrup stuff in the evening. This was causing me severe pain. This was causing severe gas build-up. And I tell you, after you've had a bowel resection, you are scared to pass wind. You are scared to put any kind of pressure down there at all, because you have this theory or thing in your head that something's going to pop open or things like that. It won't. Trust me, it won't. Obviously, you can't push too hard on bits and pieces like that, but yeah, your bowel's not going to break apart inside you if, you know, you have a fart, basically. Sorry, language. But I didn't know that, and I was petrified. So they were giving me this. It was causing a lot of gas. I was trying my best just to let things out very gently. But the pain that was going on was later explained. That it turned out that I'm actually lactose intolerant. Not to a degree where, you know, it's severe. I can have like a drop of milk, normal dairy milk in tea and things like that, but I wouldn't be able to drink like a glass of it or anything too creamy. So they were giving me this lactulose stuff, which I was allergic to, and nobody could work out why my pain was getting worse. So just bear that in mind, and your bowel function will change a little bit as well. And I will go into more depth maybe on that in a different video, and how my eating habits and things have had to change, and my diet's had to change as well. But you're not allowed to leave the hospital until 1, you're kind of half walking up straight, and 2, you've had a bowel movement. Nothing was coming out of me but wind, you know. Sorry, too much information, but that's what I'm here for, to tell you what to expect. I've been through it. I got through it. Look at me now. I'm doing all right. Like, so, you know, it was going on to, I don't know what day it was, day 6, day 7, and finally I had something that resembled a pea, kind of. I've never been so excited in my life, I don't think, at that point, and was desperate to get back out of the toilet to tell somebody. Anybody would have done, but you know, it was the nurse in particular. I think I had about 3 of the other women in the ward told at this stage, I had a pee, girls, I had a pee. And they're like, what? You know, have you not got your catheter thing in? No, I mean, like, you know, you get the drift. I'm really sure on this one. You know, I think it's, I can't even remember now roughly how long I was in for. I think I was in for about 8 or 9 days in total. Don't quote me on that one, it's a long time ago now, and there was a lot of other stuff going on. But getting back to some tips, or maybe not even tips, little things maybe to bring in with you when you're going in for this type of surgery. Get yourself some sort of a grabber thing, just a nice little compact grabber yoke, whether it's some form of maybe a hairbrush with a long handle. That's what I found in my wash bag that helped me greatly. But something that, you know, if you've dropped something on the floor, or maybe you're trying to put underwear or something on, that can help you kind of bend down, and you have it kind of attached to it that you can just manage to slip your feet through until you can get it up far enough to pull it the rest of the way. Because bending down can be a bit of a problem, and you know, you don't want to be kind of relying on a nurse every time you need your pants put on or stuff. I was lucky to have somebody in. My partner was in every evening with me to help change things like my socks, because I couldn't bend down to do it. I was walking but very poorly. So that was number 1. Sensitive, biodegradable, if you can get them, wet wipes. Now, these aren't only to help you clean up maybe your bits and pieces. These are also for your face, maybe under your arms, you know, just to give yourself a little bit of a cleanse up, because, you know, being in hospital after an operation is a bit, I don't know, I just felt a little bit odd in myself. Now, another thing I would say is, now, male or female again, so, you know, whatever, no one's judging you. Well, I really bloody hope not, in the situation that you may be in. A bit of moisturiser, doesn't have to be anything scented or fancy or anything like that, but just something to put on your face maybe, and put on your hands and bits and pieces, that your skin dries out a lot, and especially your lips then as well. So maybe like a little thing of Vaseline or a chapstick type thing was a good thing for me. Bring extra underwear, just, you know, just in case. Just make sure that you've got a good supply of underwear and your pajamas, or, you know, personally for me, like a nightie, no bottoms or anything like that, a long nightie, well, down to my kind of knee area, was a saving grace, because of where I'd had sort of incisions, and I had bits and pieces going around on my belly. I wouldn't have been able to cope with sort of like my usual pyjama bottoms I would wear, so a nightie. A nice dressing gown and a nice pair of slippers. Treat yourself. That's terrible, isn't it, when you have to say treat yourself to some pyjamas. Do that. What else can I think of now? There are lots of other little bits and pieces, you know. I mean, if you think you're going to be feeling up to it, by all means, bring your bit of face slap if you want, or whatever. Personally, I just didn't care what I looked like. I wouldn't go for things like spray deodorants or spray perfumes. Just there's other people in your ward and things you have to be very aware of, and if any of them maybe problems with breathing and things like that, you don't want to be overpowering even yourself or anybody else with a spray sort of deodorant or sprays of any description. So yeah, nice a roll on or something like that. It could be a scented roll on, you know, whatever. I hope this has kind of helped a little bit. I don't know if I've just been jabbering on, but that was just, as I said, that was my experience, and they're just a few bits and pieces to help me. And I hope that maybe you've took something from this. But I just want to say, don't be scared. Don't be like I was, because after all was said and done, I can look back, you know, a couple of weeks later, and it wasn't overly that bad. I mean, within, I think, nearly 3 weeks, I still wasn't, obviously I wasn't 100%. I'd had 1.5 foot of my bowel removed. And I definitely wasn't back to 100%, but I was getting around. Like, I couldn't stand up for maybe too long or anything like that, but get out. If you can get out, get out. Don't sit in the house and mope. You're going to want to. You're going to want to sit there, and it's okay to feel down, and it's okay to be, you know, no one's expecting you to go and run a marathon, jump through hoops, or be the life and the soul of the party, because no. You know, I'm a very bubbly, outgoing type person, and I'm normally quite a positive person as well. And there were times when I couldn't focus on anything. I wanted to be on my own, but watch that. Don't let yourself be on your own too much. To cry, have a cry. You know, if you don't want to do it in front of people, or that, you know, there's people, wait until you're in the bathroom doing whatever you're doing, having your wash or whatever. Just don't hold it in, because it's the worst thing you can do. And don't go into search engines, guys, please, because you are gonna freak the living daylights out yourself, and no, you don't need that. So up and coming in some next videos, I'm going to be doing about the type of chemotherapy I had, and I mentioned this in my first video. If you haven't watched that, go back and watch that one. I had like a port put into my chest, first little operation, just so I could have my chemotherapy administered, because I had a couple of hours in chemo, in the oncology unit having the chemo, and then I was sent home with a bottle of Folifox, a pump thing that I had on for a couple of days, and then I went back to get disconnected. So if that sounds kind of like maybe a treatment that you might have heard of so far, or that might have been mentioned to you, then stay tuned for the next one. I hope to have that up in the next couple of days, all going to plan. I'm new to this. I'm still getting used to the whole camera and sitting here in front of the camera speaking away to myself, basically, but I'm not, because I know this user somewhere there. And so anyway, that's going to be it from me today. If you did find this video useful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and maybe share it with somebody else that might find it beneficial, something like that. And don't be afraid to comment down below. I will do my best to get back to every single one of you. I might not be able to help with some of the questions you've got, but I'm here. Okay. And another thing is, maybe if you ask a question and I don't know, somebody else might be able to answer that. So, you know, take care of yourself, take care of your mind, and just please, you know, try and stay positive, because that is the biggest thing that's going to get you through what you've got coming. Or maybe you're finished after that and you're one of the lucky ones that doesn't have to have any more treatment. But, well, she says lucky, and a lot of people say unlucky. Nah, lucky. Still here to tell the tale, or you're still fighting, you know, and there's always light at the end of the tunnel, always. Take care, peeps, and I shall talk to you all soon.